So we looked at Mississippi State's recruiting class via the transfer portal. Kind of a reminder that there's going to be a bunch of new names on the roster that you're trying to figure out, okay, who's that guy? Where's he from? Oh yeah, transfer portal guy. Well, you're really going to need a roster if you're talking about Ole Miss. 22 in the transfer portal, 21 that are still with this Ole Miss team. Borky, in your mind, what were the biggest positions of need that Ole Miss had to add to be ready for this year through the transfer portal?
1A, 1B, defensive line, linebacker. It needed defensive line help badly, needed backer help badly. Wide receiver, tight end, if you want to loop them into a combo, sure. Running back, which they didn't add, and defensive back.
Okay. Well, let's start with the defensive.
I think in that order is the right order. And then if they want a fifth or sixth quarterback, they can add those two. That'll be last.
So we'll start with the I got one of those. At least one, couple.
Well, they got a recruit that reclassified to come in for this year. So,
but lost a commitment as well. So, we'll see. All right, so on that defensive line, Stefan Nguyen, big boy, 6'4", 299 from Nebraska. He is a fifth-year senior, originally a four-star guy out of high school.
I believe he's a sixth-year senior.
Sixth-year senior.
I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. He has recorded a stat in 5 college football seasons.
I mean, you can do that now with a redshirt year and a COVID year mixed in. We're still in that window where that works.
I believe he was on Alabama's team with Pete Golding starting in 2018 to 21 and then played at Nebraska last year.
Wow.
I believe that is accurate.
Akilo Stone comes over from Georgia Tech, another defensive lineman. And, yeah, we'll see where he fits into the mix. He's a younger guy, a redshirt freshman.
He's
got some growing to do.
He does. That was a depth piece. So it happened a long time ago, so it doesn't feel not important's not the right word, but Josh Harris, don't forget, a transfer portal defensive lineman as well from NC State.
I was working my way to him.
When you went to Stone, in terms of quality of pickup,
I just started at the bottom of the list and was working my way up. There's no rhyme or reason to the order there. Josh Harris, I mean, I talked about him. We talked about him after the spring game. He is a massive human being. He's listed at 6'2". Okay, I'll take your word for it. If I just looked at him and you said, hey, tell me how tall he is and how much he weighs, I'd be like 6 feet 330. He's listed at 6'2", 315, but he is massive. And the thing that's interesting to me is, all right, how many snaps are you getting out of him? How many snaps is he going to be able to give you a game? Is he can give you a couple of downs and then comes out, or is he a stay on the field guy? But he is a space eater in the middle of that defensive line, and has a chance to be an anchor in the middle of the defensive line, which they need. All right, linebackers. Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, the UCF transfer.
You might be getting to it, too. Don't forget about Isaac Ukwu, the defensive end from James Madison.
Borky, there's so many names on this list.
I know. It's crazy. But, he was first-team All-Sunbelt guy from James Madison. So, defensive line was the biggest priority, right? They returned what you would call 3 guys that you know can give you a lot. You can throw Jamon Gordon in there, I guess. But with Johnson, if he's healthy, Ivy and Pegues. Mm-hmm. And they've added first-team All-Sunbelt guy, 6th-year senior, and fourth or fifth year senior with Harris. He's played a lot of football as well. So while those 3 guys that they added that they expect to be instant impact guys have not played for Ole Miss, at least you've got, 10 combined years of Division I football playing experience between the 3 of them, which should, in theory, help. So they needed that defensive line help badly, and they at least addressed it on experience. It's got to translate, of course.
Sure.
But experience-wise, in quality of prospect, they did well there.
Monty Montgomery, one of the linebackers, comes in from Louisville. Also, Jean-Baptiste, who we mentioned just a second ago. Some secondary pieces also. Zamari Walton, the transfer from Georgia Tech, expected to kind of be out on an island at one of the cornerback spots. You get Deshaun Gaddy, the transfer from North Texas. He's also a senior cornerback.
And there was a thing there. So he committed to Ole Miss, I think, in January. And then there was some kind of transfer hang-up deal. And he got it figured out because he enrolled in school after spring. So there's a chance, at least for a little while, I thought that they may not get him. Because, these are also student athletes. Sometimes we forget that. But the academics have to line up, and there was some kind of hang-up there. So he was a big pickup at the time, and then, he may not be able to transfer. And then he can, obviously.
So it worked out. You got John Saunders, the transfer from Miami of Ohio at safety. I think they're expecting big things from him. Offensive side, Zachary Franklin and Trey Harris. Those are the two wide receivers that have gained the most attention. Franklin coming from UTSA, Trey Harris coming from Louisiana Tech. But Franklin knew, so he didn't commit until June 3rd, was not around for the spring, and Trey Harris, who was around for the spring, is enrolled already, was banged up and didn't participate. They're excited about those two wide receivers. Caden Prieskorn, the tight end from Memphis, who is listed as a junior. I think this is his fourth year, even though he's listed as a junior. Spencer Sanders, talked about him. Walker Howard, talked a little bit about him. Chris Marshall came and went already, so that was one piece on the wide receiver puzzle that's not going to be there. And then you got a couple of linemen as well. Quincy McGee coming from UAB. He is a big boy, too. It's 6'4", 345. I think with what they've got happening on the offensive line, that's a depth piece there. And then Victor Kern, who comes over from Washington as well. Is he going to be a starter on the offensive line or not? I don't know. But, Borky, I know having a couple of guys that you can add that have playing experience that can give you some depth on the offensive line is important because that's an area that Ole Miss has struggled in recent years. The first group's been pretty good, but they haven't been able to come off the field as much as they needed to because there was really nobody else that they trusted to go in.
And something that's going under-discussed is, position coaches sometimes, you hire a guy to be a tight end coach to be a recruiter or whatever. Sometimes position coaches are, they move around a lot and not a whole lot changes. But Ole Miss had to do something on the offensive line besides just add guys. Thornton out. Now, Auburn people will tell you that Hugh Freeze poached him from Ole Miss. That was not the case. He was not going to return after the Egg Bowl was saying bye to the players before Auburn even hired Hugh Freeze. So they can say that if they would like to, I suppose. But John Garrison replacing him, he was the guy that was at NC State and had the first-round pick there a couple years ago. They need that to be good because up front, the running numbers mask the poor play from the offensive line last year, which is weird to say. It's weird to say they weren't good enough up front, and also they led the SEC in rushing. Like, those two things don't add up. But they did not protect well enough last year. And they got exposed in Baton Rouge. They got exposed by Mississippi State. They've got to be better up front. And it's not just personnel. They need John Garrison to step in and improve the unit more so than Jake Thornton could.
Hey, Dad, you'll forgive me. I missed a couple of names. There were two corners also in Jaden Kennedy and Dejon Anthony. Kennedy coming from Tulane and Anthony from Liberty. And the last one is an athlete, Tasia Young, who's a redshirt junior that came from FAU. A lot of dudes. Better get your roster handy. Buy your game program. Those still exist. They need a program when you